I was just in Starbucks, and it's just crazy to me now that I go, be out or whatever, and I'm just starting to see a lot of senior citizens, retirees, right, in these jobs. Like the barista that was making my drink, she had to be in her 70s. But anyway, she had messed up. Cause I be ordering the drink and you gotta do this, you gotta do that, whatever. Not too crazy. But she messed up or whatever, and the younger guy, there was just two of them. So it was like a younger guy that was at the register, and then it was the barista, older woman. So when I was like, oh, they forgot to add, I'd like to get a little bit of extra syrup, and then they forgot to add it, which everybody does that. When I order my lavender drink, I always add 2 extra pumps, and for some reason they take out the simple syrup and they just add the 2 vanilla pumps, and it's like, no, I want the simple syrup and 2 extra vanilla pumps. Anyway, so she forgot that, which is normal. I go to different Starbucks, they always forget it. So the guy, he was like correcting her, and I was like, oh, y'all must have missed the extra syrup in it because it wasn't sweet. So he was like showing her like where he marked it and all that. She was like, oh, I'm sorry. So I felt so horrible, and I'm like, oh, no, it's okay. You can just put the syrup in the drink you made. You don't have to make it over. So he was like, no, we're making it over because it's not gonna blend right or whatever. She was like, no, I'll make it all. But she had to been in her 70s, and the YTs, they be looking a little older than what their real age. But I don't know. I'm thinking she in her 70s. She was a retiree. I don't care. She was a retiree. But my point is that that's sad, because those jobs are supposed to be for the, I know this thing cuts off. So where I was at, those jobs are really supposed to be for the youth, younger folks, just getting into the workforce or whatever. But my point I'm making is that goes to show you that all these older senior citizens have to go back out and get a job. I can't imagine my 77, my mom would be 77. I cannot imagine her being a barista at Starbucks, because she has to find or has to have extra money to live. That's my point here. It's like, I felt so horrible. Why does she, what? It's just stuff. I just pay attention to stuff like that, and it bothers me. Seeing when I see old people out and they struggling, they have bags in their hand, it breaks my heart. Because I'm like, that could be my mom. Luckily, she has a person that attends to her and does her shopping and all that stuff. But it just bothers me. I don't know. That was just something I observed today, that I'm just like, this is crazy. All these older people that I know, and I know people retire and then they go back and they work. But 9 out of 10 times, it's not because they want to keep themselves active working. There's other things you can do to keep yourself active and on the go, instead of going to get a second job. They're getting a second job to supplement their income because the retirement is not enough, or they need more money to live. That's the point. That's the point here. You're not going to sit there and tell me a 70-something-year-old woman wants to go work at Starbucks just for the fun of it. I doubt it. And if you do, I'm pretty sure there are cases that they do, but I doubt it. Not here in America. That lady's working because she need the money, because she can't afford to live probably with. I'm just unhappy. It just bothers me. I don't know. That was just something I observed today, that I'm just like, this is crazy. All these older people that I know, and I know people retire and then they go back and they work. But 9 out of 10 times, it's not because they want to keep themselves active working. There's other things you can do to keep yourself active and on the go, instead of going to get a second job. They're getting a second job to supplement their income because the retirement is not enough, or they need more money to live. That's the point. That's the point here. You're not going to sit there and tell me a 70-something-year-old woman wants to go work at Starbucks just for the fun of it. I doubt it. And if you do, I'm pretty sure there are cases that they do, but I doubt it. Not here in America. That lady's working because she need the money because she can't afford to live probably with. I'm
Back
just
at the baby boom generation, it's, oh my goodness, they can't retire. This is the first time in the history of the United States that there are 4 generations in the workforce at one time, because the baby boom generation can't afford to leave, which means that my kids are really having a hard time breaking in and making any kind of money because the baby boom generation can't retire. They can't afford to. They have to work till they die. They retired with a median amount of money of only $289,000. So for 40 years, every paycheck, they were putting money in there, and they retired with only $289,000. They put all their eggs in one basket, in the 401k and like basket. Once they went to draw money out of the basket, it wasn't full. When they retired, it hardly had any resources for them to do anything with. That's a predicament that we're in the United States and on the cusp of a major market collapse.
The retirement crisis, and why does it matter to any of us, and what do we do about it?
This is a multifaceted issue. The first issue is we have this huge population of old people, baby boomers, that are retired or entering retirement, that have not enough money. This is not just the US, this is also the UK, like you said, which creates a few issues. Number one, who's going to take care of them? Number two, who's going to fund that taking care of them? The government doesn't have that money. And the people that are going into retirement don't have that money. And their kids many times don't have that money. That's the first issue. And now as we start to dig into that, we have people that are working longer. And it creates now this problem in the future that we can see today. If you're in your 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, teens, you can see that there's this problem that's happening. How do we prevent that today? Because I don't know what the solution is for this retirement crisis. I don't have a solution.
There's this guy that comes up to my job in a Tesla truck, and he blasts his music because he has 215s in the back. He blasts his YN music, his bump, yeah, nigga, shoot you in your chest, what you, like shit like that. And he rides real slow around the parking lot. I guess so everybody can see him and admire his Tesla. He got to be about 65. At what age do you stop doing that? Inquiring minds would love to know.
If you have a 401k and you have retirement funds, but not enough to live off of, which many Americans are in that boat, because a 401k was never designed for you to retire off of. It was an account for executives to be able to stash away some extra cash, and it got turned into a quote-unquote retirement account. But there's generally, unless you have a ridiculous amount of money in that 401k, it's not going to be enough money for you to retire on.
So we're just going to do away with the pensions, and if you want to retire, guess what? It's up to you. It's up to you. You got to fund your own retirement. That's how the 401ks were birthed. 401k. And then the last stool, right, the last leg of your stool that you're supposed to have is personal savings. Here's the problem with that. The average person got less than $1,000 saved right now today. Less than $1,000. So how can it's the big problem right now. Again, Social Security gonna be depleted or reduced 20 to 25%. Pensions are non-existent with most companies, most employers, and the average person has less than $1,000 of savings. So we find ourselves in a retirement crisis.
1 in 3 Gen Xers have less than $100,000 saved. And the problem with that is that retirement is expensive. So we're going to need way more than $100,000. And the fact is that the clock is ticking. Time equal growth. And if we're not putting money in, then nothing is growing. And without a plan, we're going to be stuck in retirement without money. So what can Gen Xers do right now? Well, one, boost your savings. Every dollar is going to count. Then you want to take advantage of any retirement plan that your company offers or open one up on your own and really start investing for wealth. I often tell people that if you need a clear path in terms of how to start saving for retirement, go and open up an account. Maybe you can start with an ETF like VOO, which has returned over 10% for the past 10 years or more. It mimics the S&P 500. But then the next thing that you want to do is that you really want to take the time to learn how to invest, to understand how your retirement plan function, to know how much you can truly save for retirement and whether or not that's going to be enough. It's not enough to just take money and put in a retirement account. And worst, it's not okay to do nothing, my Gen Xers. Take the time, invest in yourself. I know we're kind of stuck in this generation where there are student loans, there's a family that you're taking care of, there's the parents that you're taking care of, but who is going to take care of you when time comes for retirement? And that's what you have to take a step back and think about yourself and start thinking, how can I start saving today so that I have something tucked away for retirement when I get ready to retire?
Those of you that don't know, there's a retirement crisis going on right now as we speak. The reality is, in 2025, we're just living longer. Today's 65-year-old can expect to live another 20 years according to the Social Security Administration. And while we're on the topic of Social Security, a program that over 70 million Americans utilize and rely on for their retirement, by 2035, it is expected to be insolvent or inefficient. Meaning, if you're not planning on retiring within the next 10 years of 2035, you might have to look at different diversification options for your retirement. If you've been living under a rock, you'll know that the stock market hasn't been performing too well. And another news flash, in case you didn't already know, your 401k is tied directly into the stock market. If you are or know somebody that's looking to diversify their savings and protect their retirement, reach out to me and we'll come up with a plan for you.
You will never, ever, ever be able to retire. I want to share this story with you because it's amazing. So there's someone in our community named Wendy. Wendy was a 55-year-old mother and grandmother to 3 little ones, working a 9-to-5. She did the Dave Ramsey thing to save up money, but she said at the way she was going, she'd be retiring somewhere around 80, and she did not want to do that. She hopped onto this blueprint, got dialed in, and this same Wendy, within, I think, 8 to 9 months, was able to not only make enough money, she actually retired herself within 8 to 9 months. And the exciting part is she just posted in our community, she made in one day made $4,600. Isn't that amazing? I want to share with you exactly how Wendy did it. If you put yes in the comments, I'll share with you the exact same blueprint that she used to go from 80-year-old retirement to $4,600 days. So yes in the comments, and I'll share it with you straight away.
Anything for retirement, and I am 47. Wow. Yeah. And you know what? You're not alone. Unfortunately, like, there's so many people that are in your bucket. There is a retirement crisis because a lot of people just don't have anything, because even when they do have something in their retirement, if something pops up, they're using it as their emergency fund. They're actually taking that money out and they are leveraging it to pay bills off or to start businesses. And while sometimes strategically it makes sense, many times it doesn't. So let's say you're borrowing some to start a business or to purchase a property. It may make sense, right? Because the idea is that the business is going to grow and then you'll be able to put money back. Or if you're buying a property, if you're smart about how you buy the property and you don't make the property a liability to you, meaning you buy too much house that you know that you're not able to afford, then that might be a good strategic decision. But as a general rule, we should not be touching our retirement account. We should be allowing it to grow, because there is this thing of compounding. And if you're not allowing this money to grow over time, the longer you wait, the less you're going to have.
I thought that retirement meant freedom and not stress. For years, I would imagine what life after work would feel like. But now, it just feels like a scramble. Scraping by, watching every dollar. What if you could build a side hustle with just your phone? And what if somebody actually walked you through it step by step? That's what Legacy Builder is. No fluff, no hype, just a real plan for your next chapter. If you're ready to start your next chapter, Put ready in the comments. Let's go.
I've lived to be 54 years old, but you want to know what keeps me awake at night? It's that little retirement savings. Does that sound familiar? I have raised a family. I have worked hard. I even started a business and still found myself saying, okay, but what now? Because the harsh reality is that many of us midlifers do not have enough to retire. See, time marches on, but our income has not marched on with it. We need something that is sustainable, but isn't going to cause a lot of stress. And honestly, I didn't feel like having to start over. But I found a system that trains people, even beginners, on in-demand digital skills that gives a blueprint on exactly how to start a business online using social media. I'm learning how to do all of this in a 2-hour workday, and I didn't have to have any experience. I didn't have to have a background in technology, and I don't have to chase people. Now I'm able to build a future without sacrificing my time now. If that's something you want, put blueprint below and I'll share my free blueprint.
So 8% of $500,000 is $40,000. And we can see here how that will rise at 3% per year with inflation. In year 1, the S&P 500 returns 33% while you withdraw the $40,000. In year 2, the market loses 5% while you withdraw $41,200. You can see here what happens to your account value using these stellar returns during the first 10 or so years of retirement. You're actually growing your money while you withdraw your 8%. And again, if you happen to retire at the beginning of a great bull run, you can easily withdraw 8% of your initial retirement portfolio. And if any of you have access to that crystal ball that tells you when those years start and end, let us know in the comments below. Okay, all jokes aside, let's look at what could easily happen, which is that you retire at the start of a decade with a flat to a slightly positive return. You might ask, well, when has that happened? One example would be the lost decade from 2000 to 2010. Other examples include 1929 to 1952 and between 1966 and 1978. I want to point out that the returns I'm using in this example are the exact same returns that I used in the first example in exact reverse order. So instead of ending the 20-year time frame with a negative 28% year, we're going to start the 20-year time frame with that negative 28%. Year 2 is negative 3% here, where it's year 19 here. So if we start with the same $500,000 and we withdraw 40% in that same year, when the S&P 500 loses 28%, we then withdraw $41,200 while the market loses another 3%. And then in year 3, the S&P 500 returns positive 21%. But by this time, you can see the damage that's been done. In fact, by year 10, they've completely run out of money using Dave Ramsey's 8% withdrawal rate. This is why it is so important to bucket your money upon retirement. More on that in my video here. And this doesn't mean that you need to stay conservatively invested throughout your retirement. It actually just means that you need to make sure that at least 5 years of living expenses are fixed, your first 5 years of retirement, within your portfolio, so that you're not forced to sell during a down market. The last reason this rule is decisively wrong is that there's already been a comprehensive study on the likelihood of retirement success, aka not running out of money, using an 8% withdrawal rate, and the results were terrible. After the 4% rule was published, 3 professors at Trinity University in Texas researched portfolio allocation and sustainability in retirement using withdrawal rates from 3% per year all the way to 10% per year. What they found was that a portfolio invested in 100% stocks only has a 74% chance of surviving for 15 years. This is not a good success rate. And 15 years does not come close to covering the average person's retirement. In fact, over a 30-year retirement, 63% of those with portfolios of 100% stock would run out of money. It's important to remember that Dave Ramsey makes a living on your views. And the more sensational his headline and the less people think they have to save and work, the more popular he becomes, thus the more money he makes. Okay, let's move on to the second worst piece of financial advice from a famous financial guru, and this one comes from Susie Orman. I actually really like Susie Orman, especially her budgeting tips, and find her to be very inspirational, especially for women in finance. However, she has a retirement rule that is so outrageously inaccurate, and that is her 5 million plus rule. In episode number 153 of the Afford Anything podcast, Orman told her listeners that 2 million is insufficient to retire early on. She said, quote, "But if you only have a few $100,000 or $1 million or $2 million, I'm here to tell you if a catastrophe happens, what are you going to do? You are going to burn up alive." When asked what a safe amount would be, she explained that it would be in the millions, but that it depends on several factors, such as where you live, your expenses, and whether you own a home outright. She believes the amount you need to retire early on would be closer to 5 or 10 million. Not only is this clearly wrong straight off the bat, and I'll show you why in a moment, but the worst part about her saying this is that she's making her listeners feel guilty for not accumulating $5 to $10 million, which we know only very few are able to do. But she's also making them feel obligated to work much longer than they have to. I know this rule is completely bogus because our firm has helped hundreds of families retire, most with less than $5 to $10 million. But I want to show you using an example. Let me introduce you to Dan and Kathy Smith, a hypothetical Florida couple, both 58 years old, and they want to retire next month. Here's the basic overview of their investable assets. This does not include their home or other tangible assets, just their liquid investable assets. And this is because in retirement, your liquid assets are what actually drives your cash flow. So they have a high yield savings account worth $100,000 and a jointly owned brokerage worth roughly $375,000. The majority of their investable assets are in Dan's traditional or pre-tax IRA worth a little over $1 million. He also has a Roth IRA worth roughly $54,000. Kathy has a traditional IRA worth around $200,000 and a Roth IRA worth a little over $20,000. Now we're going to move to our flagship software, eMoney, to show you how we would analyze Dan and Kathy's situation. Here's their baseline. Dan and Kathy are 58, and we're using a life expectancy of 95 years old. Their goals are to be able to maintain their lifestyle at $100,000 per year, or just over $8,300 per month. This does include their mortgage, which is in a different section under expenses and taxes, which I'll show you in a minute, at just under $16,000 per year. You'll see here that under leave to heirs, it says $0. But that doesn't mean that Dan and Kathy want to leave nothing to their kids. It just means that whatever's left will go to them, but they don't want to downgrade their lifestyle just to leave their children an inheritance. Under net worth, we can see their liquid investable assets that we reviewed earlier, as well as the value of their home at $500,000 and their $200,000 mortgage. This brings their net worth to roughly $2.1 million. Now, Dan and Kathy want to retire next month, so they'll have earned half of their annual income for 2024, which is $75,000 gross for Dan and $45,000 gross for Kathy. Below, we have their full retirement age or age 67 Social Security benefits. Under expenses and taxes, we see that everything but their mortgage costs $85,000 net per year in today's dollars between now and their advanced age or age 85. Recognizing an advanced age reduced spend is really important because there comes a point where you just can't do what you did when you first retired, typically around 80 to 85 years old. This is otherwise known as those no-go years that we discussed earlier, where expenses typically reduce to 70% of your early retirement spend, which for them is $60,000 in today's dollars. The software will inflate these expenses at 3.5% per year. We account for their mortgage separately because it's only for a specific time frame, and the amount does not increase with inflation unless you have a specific type of variable loan, which they don't. Their annual mortgage payment is $15,672 a year and will be paid off in 17 years.
Okay, everybody, happy Financial Friday, honey. So I promise you that my next post, I would go deeper into what I talked about a couple days ago when it comes to Americans at every income level, not even meeting the median for their 401k. So in 2025, the economy is looking, all right. It's not at its best, it's not at its worst, but people are hiring less, they're paying less, and things are going up and up when it comes to prices. And Americans just have not in the past put the money into their 401ks and save for their future, and they're currently not doing it now. So let's look at the chart behind me, the screenshot, the graph, whatever you want to call it. All right, so look at this. All right, so even people that are considered middle class, lower middle class, they're not even meeting the median standpoint. So even people that are making over 60 grand a year, they're not even hitting the 30 grand mark. All right, and I can lean back even more so you can see side. People that are making $109,000 are almost there, but they're not technically there, and they should honestly have a little bit more. But the thing is, the higher people's salary go, the more income they make, typically their lifestyle goes up. So where are you at? Hit an emoji, type some comments. How are you living? What are you feeling? Are you exactly where you need to be? Are you hitting that medium level and the current state of the economy that we are in with your current salary? Do you feel like you have enough to live comfortably? Do you need more? Tap in, let your girl know, and let's keep this conversation rolling. Peace out and happy Financial Fridays.
Millions of people who have nothing for retirement.
We have a huge retirement savings crisis in the U.S., especially for women. This is when you see older women like re-entering the workforce or having to push back retirement or like not even being able to retire at all. This is why it's so important to learn about personal finance and investing, especially as a woman, because Social Security just isn't what it used to be. Ageism in the workforce is very real. It's hard to get a job now. Imagine trying to get a job when you're in your 60s and maybe your skill set isn't as relevant on the market anymore. Lastly, you're just going to be so tired and so burned out. Make sure we're getting you set up. The earlier you start, the more powerful it's going to be. Even if we're not investing a ton, anything is more than nothing. If you don't know where to start, which accounts you need, how much to be investing, or all of this just feels super overwhelming, but you're ready to learn, I'm hosting a free Intro to Investing class this Wednesday, so let's get you up to speed.